Every year, millions of people decide to change their lives. They write the goals, they buy the books, they start the habits. They mean it completely, and almost all of them fail. Not because they're lazy, not because they don't want it badly enough, but because they were using a method that psychology has known for decades simply does not work. Almost everything people naturally try when they want to change themselves is the exact opposite of what actually causes lasting change. Today, we're going to decode the psychology of self-transformation, why most attempts fail, what's actually happening in the brain during genuine change, and the specific shifts that make the difference. The human brain is not neutral about change. It is, at its core, a prediction machine. Every experience you've ever had, every behavior you've ever repeated, all of it has been wired into neural pathways that your brain treats as the default operating system. Neuroscientists call this the self-schema, the deeply embedded network of beliefs your brain uses to predict how you will act. When you try to change, you are not just learning a new behavior. You are threatening your brain's most fundamental model of reality, its model of you. And the brain does not take that threat quietly. When people attempt to act in ways that contradict their self-schema, the brain generates a discomfort signal very similar to physical pain. The difficulty isn't in the new habit. It's in the gap between who you're trying to become and who your brain currently believes you are. Willpower is like trying to redirect a river with your hands. You can do it briefly, but you cannot sustain it. Real transformation doesn't happen by fighting the brain's existing model. It happens by changing the model itself. Why specifically do most self-transformation attempts fail? Psychology points to three consistent patterns. Reason 1. They try to change behavior without changing identity. Someone wants to exercise more, so they create a schedule. They want to read more, so they set a timer. Behavior that contradicts identity is always temporary. If you believe at a deep level that you are someone who is not disciplined, then every disciplined action you take will feel like a performance. And performances end. The moment willpower runs low, behavior snaps back to match identity. The people who transform successfully focus on changing who they believe they are. Instead of saying, "I want to run more," the person who transforms says, "I am becoming someone who moves their body." Change the identity, and behavior changes as a natural consequence. Reason 2. They rely on motivation instead of environment. They wait to feel ready. They search for inspiration. They try to sustain enthusiasm over weeks and months. Motivation is a byproduct of action, not a prerequisite for it. You don't get motivated and then start. You start, and motivation follows. The people who actually change their lives design their environment. They remove friction from the behaviors they want. They add friction to the behaviors they don't. The most reliable predictor of whether a behavior would stick was not motivation, but how easy the behavior was to start. Make the behavior small enough and easy enough, and the brain stops resisting it as a threat. Reason 3. They measure the wrong thing. Most people measure transformation by outcomes. Did I lose the weight? Did I stick to the habit for 30 days? When the outcome doesn't appear on schedule, they conclude that they are failing, and they stop. But genuine transformation doesn't move in straight lines. The brain literally needs to fail and recover in order to wire new patterns permanently. A slip is not evidence that change isn't happening. In many cases, it's evidence that it is. The people who succeed measure process, not outcome. Did I show up today in a way consistent with who I am becoming? Truth 1. Real change is quiet. Real transformation is quiet, incremental, and largely invisible, especially in the early stages. It happens in the small choices that no one else notices. The moment you pause before reacting the way you used to, every one of them is a vote cast for the identity you're building. Truth 2. The most important change happens before anyone can see it. The learning plateau, a period where no visible progress appears, but where the most important underlying changes are happening at the neurological level. Most people quit during the learning plateau. You are stopping precisely at the moment when everything is about to happen. Truth 3. You cannot transform alone. The brain's sense of identity is formed and maintained through the mirror of other people. People who transform successfully almost always do so inside a community or relationship that reflects the new identity back to them. You need to be around people who see you as the person you're becoming before you fully believe it yourself. If you have tried to change yourself and failed, this is not evidence that you are someone who cannot change. It is evidence that you are using a method that doesn't match how the brain actually works. The system most people use is backwards. It starts at the end and ignores everything in the middle. Not what do I want to achieve, but who do I want to become? Not how do I make myself do this, but how do I make this the natural expression of who I am? You have changed before. Every version of you that exists right now was once a version that didn't exist. The brain that felt impossible to rewire has been rewired many times without you even noticing. The only difference now is that you're doing it consciously, and that makes it harder in the short term and far more powerful in the long term. Mascot looks at their own reflection in a mirror, quietly. If this changed how you see your own attempts at change, leave a comment. Tell us which of the 3 failure patterns you recognized most in yourself. Share it with someone who is trying to change something about themselves right now and might need to hear that they're not failing. They're just using the wrong map. I'm Psych Mirror. Subscribe so you don't miss the next time we hold up a mirror to the parts of the mind most people never examine. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you next time.